I stood outside the law office, my hand hovering over the door handle. Through the frosted glass, I could see the shapes of my family members already gathered inside. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all waiting for the reading of Grandpa William's will, all of them believing they were about to inherit pieces of his fortune. None of them knew the truth. Not yet. Miss Anderson, a security guard, approached me. "I'm sorry, but I've been instructed not to let you in." Of course, Aunt Margaret must have arranged this. She'd always been the family's self-appointed gatekeeper, deciding who was real family and who wasn't. "It's okay," I said quietly. "I'll wait out here." I sat on a bench in the hallway, remembering the last conversation I had with Grandpa William 3 months ago. He called me to his study, his eyes twinkling with that familiar mischievous glint. "Sophia," he'd said, patting the seat next to him, "I need you to promise me something." I'd loved my grandfather's study. While the rest of his mansion was all modern luxury and show-on perfection, his study remained a cozy haven of worn leather chairs and old books. It smelled of pipe tobacco and wisdom. "Anything, Grandpa." He pulled out a thick envelope sealed with wax. "When the time comes, don't let them provoke you. No matter what they say or do, promise me you'll keep quiet until Mr. Patterson reads this letter." I touched the identical envelope in my purse now, the one he'd given me as a backup. "But why all the secrecy, Grandpa?" He'd smiled, the wrinkles around his eyes deepening. "Because, my dear, sometimes people need to learn their lessons the hard way." A burst of laughter from inside the office pulled me back to the present. Through the glass, I could see Aunt Margaret holding court, probably already planning how to redecorate Grandpa's mansion. Next to her, my cousins Brandon and Melissa whispered and smirked, occasionally glancing toward the door where I sat. I wasn't surprised they blocked me from the reading. In their eyes, I'd never been real family anyway. My mother had been the black sheep, the only one of Grandpa's 3 children who'd chosen love over social status, marrying a struggling artist instead of the wealthy businessman they'd picked for her. They cut her off completely when she and Dad died in a car accident 10 years ago, leaving 16-year-old me an orphan. Not one of them offered to take me in. Only Grandpa William stepped forward, becoming my guardian and giving me a home. "He just feels obligated," Aunt Margaret would say at family gatherings, loud enough for me to hear. Poor William stuck with Diana's mistake, but Grandpa never made me feel like an obligation. While my cousins spent their trust funds on luxury cars and failed business ventures, he taught me about investment strategies and business ethics. While they partied on yachts, I sat with him in his study, learning about the empire he'd built from nothing. "They think money is the same as wealth," he told me once. "But true wealth, Sophia, is in here and here." He tapped my head and heart. "Knowledge and compassion. Those are the real inheritance I want to leave." Last year, when I graduated from business school, he'd been the only one who came to the ceremony. That night, he'd taken me to dinner and handed me a small box. Inside was a key to my private office, he'd said. "The one even Margaret doesn't know about. Go there tomorrow. See what you can learn." That office, hidden behind a false wall in his study, contained the true story of Grandpa William's empire. Not just the public companies everyone knew about, but the quiet investments, the secret patents, the carefully hidden majority shares in dozens of major corporations. For the past year, I'd worked alongside him in secret, learning everything about his true business empire. The companies he really controlled, the investments he made through shell corporations, the innovations he funded anonymously. When he was diagnosed with cancer 6 months ago, we accelerated my training. Every day after my regular job at a consulting firm, I'd go to his hidden office. He taught me everything. Every account, every investment, every secret that had made him one of the richest men in the country. None of the family knew that their poor charity case cousin was being groomed to take over a multi-billion-dollar empire. They also didn't know about the other changes Grandpa had quietly made. The restructured companies, the transferred shares, the new board appointments. The door to the law office opened and Mr. Patterson, Grandpa's lawyer, stepped out. He was an elderly man with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. He'd been in on Grandpa's plan from the beginning. "Miss Anderson," he said formally, though I caught the slight wink. "Would you like to come in now?" I stood up, straightening my simple black dress. Aunt Margaret immediately protested. "Mr. Patterson, I thought we agreed that this reading was for family only." "And Miss Anderson is family," he replied firmly. "In fact, her presence is essential." I walked in, keeping my face neutral as my relatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Brandon and Melissa didn't even try to hide their snickers. "What's she doing here?" Brandon stage whispered, hoping for a handout. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. "Now that everyone is here, we can begin the reading of William Anderson's last will and testament." I sat quietly in the back as he began with the small bequests, family jewelry to various aunts, the vacation house in Florida to one uncle, cash gifts to the household staff. With each item, the tension in the room grew. Everyone was waiting for the big announcement: who would inherit the bulk of the fortune, the company's shares, the mansion. "And now," Mr. Patterson said, reaching for a sealed envelope. "Mr. Anderson left specific instructions about this letter. It is to be read aloud in its entirety before any further disbursements are discussed." Aunt Margaret leaned forward eagerly. She'd spent years convincing herself that she was Grandpa's favorite, that she'd be the one to control everything after he was gone. Mr. Patterson broke the seal and began to read. "My dear family, if you're hearing this, then I'm no longer with you. I've lived a long life, built a successful business, and had the joy of watching my family grow. But I've also watched with sadness as money and greed changed many of you. You've spent years fighting over who deserves the largest share of my fortune. You've measured your worth by the size of your trust funds. You've forgotten the values that helped me build this empire: hard work, integrity, and compassion. All except one person." The room went absolutely silent. Every head turned toward me. "Sophia," Mr. Patterson continued reading, "came to me as a grieving teenager who had lost everything. While others saw an obligation, I saw an opportunity, a chance to pass on my legacy to someone who understood its true value." Aunt Margaret's face had gone pale. Brandon and Melissa were no longer smirking. "For the past year, Sophia has worked alongside me, learning every aspect of my business empire. She has shown the same dedication, intelligence, and integrity that I needed when I was building this company from nothing." "What?" Aunt Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. Therefore, Mr. Patterson's voice grew stronger. "As of 1 month ago, I transferred controlling interests in Anderson Enterprises and all its subsidiary companies to Sophia Anderson. The mansion, the private accounts, and all majority shareholdings are now in her name." The explosion came exactly as I had expected. Aunt Margaret leaped to her feet, her face contorted with rage. "This is impossible. She tricked him. She manipulated a sick old man." But Mr. Patterson wasn't finished. "Furthermore, to prevent any legal challenges to this decision, I have documented every step of Sophia's training, every transfer of ownership, and my complete confidence in her abilities. The videos, contracts, and medical evaluations proving my sound mind are all in Mr. Patterson's possession." I finally looked up, meeting the shocked faces of my relatives. The same people who had abandoned me, mocked me, tried to exclude me from my own grandfather's will reading. "She's nobody," Brandon shouted. "She's not even real family." Mr. Patterson pulled out another document. "Actually, there's more." Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses and began reading from the second document, his voice cutting through the chaos in the room. "To address the inevitable accusations that will come from certain family members," he read, "I have prepared a detailed accounting of how each of you has managed your trust funds and company positions over the past decade." The room fell silent again, but this time with a different kind of tension. I could see the color draining from several faces. "Margaret," Mr. Patterson continued, "in the past 5 years, you have embezzled approximately $2.3 million from your division of Anderson Enterprises, hiding it through a series of fraudulent consulting contracts with your husband's company." Aunt Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her husband suddenly found the floor very interesting. "Brandon, you have lost $4.7 million of company money on failed ventures that you never properly reported to the board. Melissa, your expense accounts show over $800,000 in personal purchases labeled as business expenses." My cousins, who moments ago had been shouting about my legitimacy, now sat in stunned silence. "I have known about these indiscretions for years," Mr. Patterson read from Grandpa's letter. "I kept quiet not out of ignorance, but to see who among you would eventually show integrity and confess. None of you did. I remembered the nights spent with Grandpa in his secret office reviewing these very documents. The hardest part of leadership, he told me, is holding people accountable, especially family. Sophia, Mr. Patterson continued reading, has spent the past year learning not just how to run the business, but also uncovering and documenting every instance of fraud, embezzlement, and mismanagement within the company. She has already implemented new oversight measures and financial controls. Aunt Margaret found her voice again. You little snake, she hissed at me. Spying on us all this time. I met her gaze calmly. No, Aunt Margaret. Just doing my job as the future CEO of Anderson Enterprises. Future CEO. Brandon laughed, but it sounded hollow. You can't even get into a family while reading without being kicked out. Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. Actually, Mr. Anderson anticipated that as well. Sophia has been the legal CEO of Anderson Enterprises for the past month. The papers were filed this morning. He pulled out a thick folder. I have here signed confessions from 3 board members who accepted bribes to cover up financial misconduct. I also have documentation of every illegal transaction, every falsified report, and every misappropriated fund. The implications slowly dawned on their faces. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. This was about criminal liability. However, Mr. Patterson continued reading from Grandpa's letter. I am giving you all one chance at redemption. Sophia has the authority to decide whether to pursue legal action or offer you a chance to make amends. All eyes turned to me again, but this time with desperation instead of disdain. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Grandpa believed in second chances, I said quietly. So here are your options. You can accept new positions within the company. Entry-level positions where you'll learn the business properly, with strict oversight and reduced salaries until you prove yourselves trustworthy. Or you can resign immediately, sign non-disclosure agreements, and receive one-time severance payments. Entry-level, Melissa squeaked. You expect us to work as regular employees? Yes. I opened my briefcase and pulled up 2 stacks of documents. Your choice. Employment contracts or severance agreements. Due to the sensitive nature of the financial misconduct involved, I need your decisions today. Uncle Robert, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. William knew about everything. All this time? Yes, I replied. He believed that money without responsibility corrupts people. He watched all of you prove that theory correct. And you? Aunt Margaret's voice dripped with venom. You're just so perfect, aren't you? I walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. No, I'm not perfect. But I did learn something none of you ever did. The value of earning what you have. One by one, they made their choices. Most took the severance packages, too proud to work under my leadership. Only Uncle Robert and his youngest daughter, my cousin Emily, opted for the employment contracts. As the others filed out, some crying, some fuming, Emily lingered behind. I never treated you badly, she said softly. But I never stood up for you either. I'm sorry for that. I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse. That's why you're getting a chance, I replied. Grandpa noticed that too. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of changes. I moved into Grandpa's mansion, my mansion now, and officially took my place as CEO. The company's stock actually rose when the news broke about the leadership change, especially after we announced new transparency initiatives and corporate governance policies. Aunt Margaret and her husband moved to Florida, using their severance to buy a modest house, a far cry from the mansion they'd expected to inherit. Brandon tried to start a rival company but found that his reputation preceded him. Melissa took her severance to Europe, occasionally posting bitter comments on social media about family betrayal. Uncle Robert proved to be a dedicated employee, genuinely working to learn the business properly. Emily showed a surprising aptitude for financial analysis, earning genuine promotions based on merit rather than family connections. One evening, about 6 months after the will reading, I was sitting in Grandpa's study, my study now, when Mr. Patterson came to visit. Your grandfather left one more letter, he said, placing an envelope on my desk. He asked me to give it to you once everything had settled down. I opened it carefully, recognizing Grandpa's handwriting. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, then you've successfully taken control of the company and dealt with the family fallout. I never doubted you would handle it well. You might wonder why I put you through all this secrecy and drama. I could have simply announced you as my successor while I was alive. But I needed everyone to see, beyond any doubt, that you earned this position through merit, not mere inheritance. The family needed to learn that actions have consequences. They needed to understand that wealth without wisdom is meaningless. Most importantly, they needed to see that true leadership isn't about who has the right last name or the biggest trust fund. It's about integrity, dedication, and the courage to make difficult decisions. You lost your parents far too young, and for that, my heart has always ached. But you never lost your moral compass. You never became bitter or entitled. Instead, you worked harder, studied longer, and showed more compassion than anyone I've ever known. That's why you're not just my heir, Sophia. You're my legacy. The secret office behind this study is yours now. Use it as I did, not to hide things from people, but to observe and understand them. Leadership isn't just about managing money and resources. It's about managing human nature itself. Some of the family will never forgive you. Others might surprise you with their capacity for growth. Your job isn't to make them love you. It's to make them respect the principles this company was built on. I'm proud of you, my dear granddaughter. Not because you're now one of the richest women in the country, but because I know you'll use that wealth and power wisely. All my love, Grandpa William. P.S. Check the hidden safe behind my portrait. There's something there your mother wanted you to have. I walked to Grandpa's portrait and swung it open, revealing the safe I'd never known about. Inside was a small jewelry box and another letter, this one in my mother's handwriting. My darling Sophia, if you're reading this, then your grandfather's plan worked. He promised me in the hospital after my accident that he would look after you, not just as a guardian, but as a mentor. He promised to teach you everything he knew about business, about life, about standing up for yourself. I'm leaving you my grandmother's sapphire necklace. I never got to wear it to your wedding or see you become the amazing woman I knew you would be. But I want you to have it as a reminder that you come from a line of strong women who chose their own paths. Your grandfather will teach you about business, but remember what I taught you about life. Success isn't about what you have, it's about who you are. I love you always, Mom. I clasped the sapphire necklace around my neck, tears finally falling freely. Outside my study window, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere out there, my relatives were dealing with their new realities, some with grace, others with bitterness. But I knew Grandpa had been right. Sometimes people need to learn their lessons the hard way. I sat down at his desk, my desk now, and opened my laptop. There was work to be done, a company to run, employees to lead. The secret office behind me held the tools and knowledge I needed, but the strength to use them wisely had been inside me all along. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what's written in a will. It's the lessons learned, the wisdom shared, and the courage to stand up for what's right, even when you have to stand alone. And sometimes the quiet one in the family, the one they mock and exclude, turns out to be the one holding all the cards. Not out of revenge or malice, but because someone wise enough saw their true potential. That night, I added my mother's letter to Grandpa's in the hidden safe. 2 generations of love and wisdom guiding me forward. The family might have banned me from the will reading, but in the end, I had inherited something far more valuable than money. I had inherited a legacy of integrity and the strength to uphold it.